Well, Lady Mercy won't be home tonight because we've waited for the hammer to fall, and we're with Oscar DRONJAK from Hammerfall. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
And welcome to London.
Thank you very much.
And I guess one of the key reasons we're here today is that you've got your 11th album out, Dominion, which is coming out through Napalm in August on the 16th.
Yes.
So I think it's the second one that's come out on Napalm. Have you changed or hardened or made your sound different since you signed to Napalm?
No, nothing has really changed. It's Hammerfall will always be the same whether we're on Napalm or Nuclear Blast or anywhere else. I think that's one of the things that I've liked so much about this this thing. We don't have to compromise with anything. Nobody's ever told us, or they have told us, but it's never happened that, you know, you should write a song like this or more ballads or whatever it is, you know. They try to influence us, but no, we don't listen, because this is really important for us, that we get to do our own vision of Hammerfall. Nobody knows what Hammerfall is but us, basically. And
Hammerfall's a Swedish band, and you're yourself from Gothenburg. And the headline or the lead single is "We Make Sweden Rock," which I don't think you can argue with. So what inspired you to write this? It's kind of like a love letter to all those great bands that have come out of Sweden, the Malmsteens and the other ones. So tell us about the idea behind that song.
Well, yeah, it was Joacim's idea from the beginning. He actually, I think he had an outline of exactly what he wanted to do already from the beginning. It wouldn't surprise me, because that's exactly the type of person he is. He's very well prepared and planning ahead and thinks things through properly. But he came up with this idea: what if we do a song called "We Make Sweden Rock"? And it's about, you know, this whole Swedish musical hard rock or metal wonder that, you know, that we have, because there are quite a few bands nowadays from Sweden, and I thought it was a great idea, because it could do it, you know, it could be corny or cheesy if you do it wrong, but the way he outlined it was, yeah, it was a good idea, I thought. Just to take references from all these bands that have influenced us or influenced other bands from or artists from Sweden, just references to them, to try to create cool lyrics, which is exactly what he did. And then he also had the idea for the video with all these photos. That was a big part of the whole idea, to make put them in focus a little bit as well, both the unknowns and the well-knowns, you know.
Because initially the band came together with a number of fairly well-known musicians from bands like In Flames, went through a few lineup changes, but Joacim's kind of been with you maybe the longest, I guess, going back.
Yeah, apart from me, well, the way I see it is, before Joacim is when we had Mikael Stanne from Dark Tranquillity on vocals, and his vocal style was very limited, like narrow. You know, he tried to sing as good as he could, but Joacim's range is so much bigger that when Joacim came into the band, I was like, my eyes and ears were like, whoa, what is this now? Is this, you know, there was such a big difference. That's when I first felt that, okay, now Hammerfall is starting to sound the way I had always envisioned it somehow. But with these guys, I mean, we played with people. I played with people that I knew liked melodic metal, and there weren't that many of them around in the mid-90s, early 90s. So it's kind of, we just played together for ourselves, you know, to have fun, and didn't have any aspirations or dreams of anything. But when Joacim came into the band, that's when it started to all come together a little bit, and then things started happening really fast after that. So for me, even if we had Hammerfall for a couple of years before that, when Joacim came to the band, that's when sort of the real Hammerfall was born, so to speak.
And going back to the video, you kind of make reference to like non-Swedish bands like Priest, and of course they're known for Rob Halford's incredible range. It must be great when you had someone like that who could maybe not completely match Rob, but to be able to deliver that soaring vocal. Yeah,
it's a totally different vocal style that those two have, but yeah, I see what you mean. And that's exactly what I was missing, because Mikael Stanne's range was not only shorter, but he was also very low. He sang really like this, you know. And for me, it sounded more like Glenn Danzig than Halford.
Yeah.
And Halford is obviously where I come from, so you know that was really great to hear it with the. I'm a sucker for falsetto, guys singing in falsetto. I love it, as you probably can tell by this T-shirt. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of band it is. It's I'm always listening a little bit extra when I hear that.
And the other observation I have is coinciding with Dominion coming out. It's pretty much 30 years since you kind of started in this sort of like the metal scene with Desecrator. You know, do you kind of look back at those 30 years and think, wow, I've been doing this for 30 years and celebrating it with this song?
No, I don't think. A little bit, yeah. I don't see it that way really, because when I was so young, I mean, Desecrator was not the first band I ever was in, but it was the first band I recorded in the studio. So that meant a lot, obviously. You know, it was a big deal. We had done some 4-track recordings before that, but you can't compare that. That was home stuff.
Is that when you were still playing the trombone?
I just quit. Did your homework. But no, I don't really look back on that. I mean, it would be fun. So now in retrospect, I think we probably should have had pictures of maybe Ceremonial Oath or Desecrator even, and maybe Joachim's Highlander. They should probably have been included, because it was a fun. You know, this was bands that we played in our very, very youth, so to speak. So it would have made sense. But there are so many photos we wanted to get in there, and so little time, space to put in there. So there are most of the bands I think that I feel needs to be in there are there, but there are certain that just didn't. There was no room left anymore. That's basically what it was.
What I also like is the song title is in the present tense, like we make Sweden. It's not like we made in the past. No, you make, and you're still making. You will make Sweden rock.
Yeah, I think if you look at the amount of bands from the, like we started with November in '69, so that was like the first reference back in the winter came back in '69, whatever he's singing. That's a reference to the band November, obviously. And then in the 70s you had a band called Universe, and Heavy Load started in the 70s also, but quite, you know, not that many bands. Silver Mountain I think also was in the 70s. But when you look to the 80s, that's when the explosion happened. So many bands on different levels, and people were playing in this band, and then gone on to be in other bands that were famous, and then people started to look up these old bands, of course. And then I don't have to tell you about what happened in the 90s with that's the real explosion of bands in both the death metal genre and other genres. And now I think we have a really healthy musical, I wouldn't say climate, but I mean a really healthy stable of bands, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, and you have certain bands like Opeth that have taken kind of a sideways move to a more prog territory. Then you have yourselves who kind of stay true to your roots in a way.
Sure, yeah, that's true. I mean, Opeth have their own journey that they're on. I've never doubted what Hammerfall is or should be. That's been since absolute day one. I knew exactly what Hammerfall was. Then how we sort of realized that vision, that has been differing, of course, you know, and with the addition of Joacim, that's a big thing. And his part, the songs that we've written together since then are, of course, an important part of this as well. But Hammerfall is we always were on the same path on this. We haven't deviated very much, and that's. Just fits us well, you know. It's never been the thing is, I didn't like death metal bands who all of a sudden tried to start playing heavy metal because they were tired of death metal or something. That happened a couple of times in the 90s, and it never worked out because they didn't have that. They didn't come from the right place. I don't think there was more like, oh, let's do this now because this feels right now. That's not how I am really as a person. When I get stuck on something, I'm really stuck on it.
And if we look at the Dominion, the new album, just looking at the kind of the songs, lyrical themes, you start the album with "Never Forgive, Never Forget," which is kind of quite a statement. But then the final track is and yet I smile.
Yeah.
So talk to me about kind of the beginning and the end, and what's in the middle.
I mean, it's not a concept album, but I guess you can always make sort of a thread between all of them if you want to. The Never Forgive, Never Forget is interesting because that song is about the Vietnam War from like an objective point of view, so to speak, because war is never good for anybody, and this certainly wasn't for anybody involved in that. But that's basically what that is. It's about that song. And Yet I Smile is more of a, you know, what is that tagline? Don't regret what you didn't do, or something. No, yeah. Don't regret what you did. Regret what you didn't do. That's what it is, and I think that's great. I think people should take that into account more often. You know, when they sit down and think about, should I do this? Can we do that? Whatever. Just do it. If it feels right, do it. And if you did it and it didn't work, at least you know. If you didn't do it, and then you will never know if it worked or not.
And so, apart from the lead single that we've heard, We Make Sweden Rock, are there any other particular songs you think for, let's say, someone new to your music? Which is there one that you say this is the one to listen to get a flavour of what Hammerfall are about right now?
I think One Against the World is a pretty good example of that, where we are right now. Probably. Yeah, that one is a good. I like Testify too, because that's a pretty straightforward, kind of fast song. Yeah, I like those.
And of course, you in the band you have twin guitar. You have Pontus, I think, on the other guitar. How do you decide how you kind of switch up between the roles, playing lead and playing rhythm?
Well, it's kind of. I always love that Judas Priest twin guitar thing that they do, not just for the solos, but for like when one guitar plays down here and the other one plays up here, or maybe with different type of fingers, whatever. Yeah. I didn't know this until I started playing guitar and started like trying to listen and hear what they were playing and try to play it myself. I realized that both of the guitars, especially the early stuff, they play completely different things. It doesn't even come close to each other sometimes, but as a unit it works so well. And so I learned a lot from that, how to set two guitars up, because there's a big difference between having one guitar and two guitars in a band, because they can do so much more with that. And as far as the lead stuff, it's more a case of, again, Judas Priest, I love the trade-offs that they do. Especially did in the 80s, there was a lot of that. One of them started, the other one took over, and then had to did it for a while, or double solos, the twin solos, or whatever you call it. Those are always cool. So I wanted to have that as well, more. I tried to focus a little bit more on that in the last 10 years or so.
I think historically you played Joacim Guitars, but in recent years, about 2014, moved to Sandburg Guitars. So tell me a little bit about that guitar or those guitars. And
well, the thing is with Joacim, I loved Joacim since I was a kid. I wanted to play the Vinnie Vincent Randy Rhoads model since I saw Vinnie Vincent play for the first time, basically. And so I was really happy to be endorsed by Joacim for a while, because they were beautiful instruments. Exactly the same thing can be said for ESP. They were fantastic instruments. But I tried to get, especially Joacim, I tried to get him to build me this hammer guitar that I have. It's based on, or the idea comes from the Gene Simmons axe bass, of course, because I thought that's the coolest instrument I've ever seen in my whole life. And with Hammerfall, obviously, the obvious thing would be a hammer. But I didn't get the feeling, because Joacim was owned by Fender, and I didn't get the feeling they didn't care about it so much. They didn't really want to do it. So when Sandberg, actually it started with Fredrik, our bass player. He started talking to Sandberg. I think Pontus knew somebody there. I don't know exactly how it happened. Pontus was a link. Like, Fredrik, would you like to try these basses out and whatever? And it's like, yeah, sure, why not? And then Pontus talked to them and said, well, they can do guitars too, and they were actually interested in Hammerfall for guitars too. So we started talking, and I realized because they build all their guitars by hand, that made it so much easier for me to get that custom guitar that I wanted, because they had to build it anyway, right? But also because they do these mostly bass guitars, and they're all, you know, usually cut out from the same model and stuff.
Yeah.
This gave them a challenge, I think. They were really excited in the beginning to do this. They thought it was a fun thing to do, basically. So try to solve because with if the neck can only be this long, you can't really stretch it out. It would look weird, and I don't even know if you can do it, you know. But so what they did was they took the neck, and then the balance between the size of the head of the hammer was important, because if you have the neck pretty short, but you can't have a small head, it would look really stupid and look like a tiny thing.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of find a balance between those two, but when this actually came together, I was so happy. We already started the tour actually when I got it. It was about a couple of days, in maybe a week, even when I got it sent to me. And I was like, oh man, here it is finally. It's like so happy about it. So that's kind of something it's a great guitar. It really sounds good and everything. It's easy to play unless you're sitting down. It's a bit awkward, but just the way it plays is fantastic. But I use it more like a prop kind of, because it's a cool effect kind of thing. So I have another guitar that they built for me as well, which is based on the Andy Rawll's model.
Yeah.
But I sort of I pimped it up a little bit or whatever, because I've always had chains on my stage outfits ever since, you know, since way back. I love it. So I asked him, can we put chains inside of the guitar and see, does that work? Sure, why not? Let's try it. So it's actually chains inside, but so the body, it doesn't stick out anywhere. They're not fastened on top of the guitar. They're inside of the body and then glued together, so it wouldn't you know, make a noise. And with big bolts on each side. So that's actually the guitar I play the most, I think, because sometimes I need the tremolo. So the hammer guitar doesn't have a tremolo, and sometimes I need that bridged for certain things. But also because they have a little bit of a different sound, not too much. You know, one is more compressed, and one is more open. But this one, the chain guitar, we call it what are those the things? Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Forget it. But that's one I play the most anyway. Yeah.
So you could say for you, it's an Oscar-winning guitar.
Yes, it's certainly. I mean, it really is. That's a good way of putting it. Those two guitars would win the award every time.
That's great. So let's talk about live. You've got a pretty comprehensive tour. I mean, you played a few dates already. I think the next one I can see here is Barcelona on the 7th of July, and you're running through Europe for a while, and then over to Latin America and the US. So what can people expect on the upcoming dates in the shows?
Well, the summer shows are festivals mostly, or exclusively, and on those, obviously, when the album's not out yet, we don't play songs from the album, because I mean, as much as we'd love to, it'd be on YouTube 5 seconds after we play it, and I don't want anybody's first experience with the new material to be from a crappy YouTube video from a live show somewhere.
Exactly.
So we can't do that, obviously. Like when the single gets released, we're probably going to slot them and move them into the set a little bit, but it's still going to be until August, end of August, I think, is when we're going to do something different. So the set we're playing right now is probably what we're going to do, more or less what we're going to do the whole summer. And then when the album's out, we're going to insert a lot of the new ones as well.
And then once you're done in the US in October, you taking a break, you're going to come back round to Europe? What are your plans?
Yeah, we finished the tour with Sabaton in, I think, November 5 maybe. We do two headline shows at the end. Oh, we do actually a couple of headline shows. So this is a Sabaton tour. We're just a special guest. So we do some headline shows in between when we have time to do it. So there's going to be a lot of shows on that tour. It's almost, I think, 2 or 3 days rest on the whole whole week. I mean the whole month. I mean, which is pretty intense. I mean, but it's gonna be fine. I'm not worried about it. I just know it's also better to keep going when you're on a roll, basically. But when that's done, we're gonna have to have a bit of a break for a little while, because there's a lot of shows being planned and until that point. So we're gonna come back to Europe in, I believe, January 30th or something like that. That's when the European tour starts. And if we get, these are all booked, these shows, like the whole 4 or 5 weeks after that. But if we get what we want, we're gonna do a short UK thing too, somewhere in the first 3 or 4 months of next year. That is
excellent to know, and of course by that point people will be well acquainted with Dominion, which again, just remind people, the 11th album, second album on Napalm, is out on the 16th of August.
Yes.
And yeah, the tracks I've heard sound great. So as the song goes, give it to me one more time, Oscar. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thanks very much, and we'll see you in January, if not before.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or yeah, we do in Sweden. We do this. We don't keep our fingers crossed. We håller tummarna. We keep holding our thumbs. Is basically what. But it means the same thing. It's just that's what we do in Sweden. Håller tummen.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
Okay.